It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of The Journey. Don't forget to post comments and questions, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the other really wonderful social media platforms that Jay has got us on. I'm super excited to have as my guest Blake Cohen. Welcome, Blake.
Thank you, sir.
And what's cool about this is that I came on your show, what was it, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
And now you're working for Recovery Unplugged, one of our favorite places with my girl Sahar.
Yep.
And you've written a really cool book, so I'm going to hold this up because over the weekend I had just an opportunity to read the foreword, the introduction.
Well, it's the prologue, but I didn't want to call it a prologue because everybody skips a prologue, so I called it But First.
Well, actually, people should. That's actually, I think if you don't read that, you kind of miss the whole point of the book.
I know.
And
that's why I changed the name. No one reads a prologue.
It's what I would call a short and sweet read. Like it's long enough where there's good content, but it's short enough that it really just sort of keeps you wanting to read a bit more.
And that was the whole goal.
So I'm glad you brought me a copy of this because I'm going to read the rest of it.
Awesome.
It's really, really good. So
if you want, I'll sign it for you.
Well, you know what? Seeing as though you're probably going to be famous at some point, I probably might have to have you sign it. Jay's even given us a pen.
We got a pen coming.
How about that?
All right, we'll sign it after.
So I know that you are you're a certified addictions professional. Mm-hmm. And so, but you also come from a family of lawyers, right? I think your dad's a lawyer.
My dad's a lawyer. My wife is a lawyer. My new wife.
Right. Congratulations. Mazel tov.
She's my first wife, but yeah, we just got married last week. So
when you've been divorced, then if you get divorced like me, then you can call her the first wife. But
yeah.
For right now, she's just the wife.
She's just the wife, the brand new wife.
I love it.
So it's amazing. We've been together for about 8 years, so it's about time we tied the knot. And so she's an attorney. My father's an attorney, and I grew up around attorneys. Of course, my whole life. So I definitely get what you guys do, and I see the stress and how difficult it is.
Yes, it is stressful. In fact, Audra and I went to there was a conference out in Palm Springs, California.
Yeah, I saw you out there.
Yeah, so it's one of the things we've started to do is to go to more conferences, which we enjoy doing. And actually, that was the first one she's come with me. We figured, we're going to go to California. We'll make it sort of a working vacation. But we got on a JetBlue plane. They had Wi-Fi. We worked the whole way there.
Of course.
The phone didn't stop ringing when we got there, and then we walked on the way back.
People crap on Spirit Airlines a lot because of just how uncomfortable the seats are. But I'm learning to like that they don't have Wi-Fi because that's what I used to love about airplanes, is that you can totally disconnect for 2 hours, 6 hours, however long it takes, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So you just have to read a book or watch a movie on your iPad. There's nothing else you can do. But now we're way too connected, as always, and now we're stuck working the whole time.
And in fact, so if once you're on the Wi-Fi, you can actually receive a phone call. So a couple of times the phone actually rang while I was on the plane.
I've been there
so of course the stewardess was like, no, you're not allowed to do that. So I had to hang up.
Well, I didn't know that rule. So I've answered the phone a couple of times until I've gotten in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole deal is. It's a Wi-Fi call anyway. I think what they don't want is that it takes up a lot of bandwidth if you take a phone call. So if everybody took phone calls.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So
I mean, no one can hear you. That's for sure. You
right.
can do whatever you want in your seat. No one can hear you.
I know. So anyway.
So
let's go back a little in time because I want to know about you because when you read the book you talk about your own journey. I mean through addiction and recovery, and I think that's what makes the book so cool is because you've been there and done it.
Yeah.
And you've experienced it. And you know what it is to go through that journey. That's
and there's little bits and pieces of my story in there. The book actually is more they're short fictional stories throughout the book that offer perspective of what it's like being in the shoes of a family member that's struggling with a loved one that has an addiction problem, or vice versa, what it's like for the person struggling with a substance use disorder, so they can understand the perspective of a family, so they can understand what it's like for their mom and dad. And so I touch on that in the book with my story, of that I never really understood what it was like for my family. And going through all this, it's a very selfish, self-centered process, especially when you're going through your addiction. It's just all about me. And I never really thought about how it was affecting my family. And really the catalyst that got me sober and made me decide that I want to make a change was this realization in my last treatment that I was in. New Year's Eve 2012 was when I got sober. So I don't know, maybe a week or two in, there was just some things that happened that my family reached out to me, and I can tell they said, "Good luck finding your way home. We never want to see you again." And for some reason, the realization came to me that I was actually hurting them, that they weren't acting this whole time just to get me to stop using drugs. That's what I thought. I realized, oh my God, I'm really hurting them, for them to react this way and to hear them cry. And my mom couldn't even speak. She was crying so much, and my dad so angry. It was just this powerful realization that, oh, I'm affecting more than just myself. So it actually motivated me to stop.
So tell us a little about your story. I mean, how you
Sure.
you basically how things sort of went sideways for you, because it sounds like you come from a great family.
Yeah, no, and I do. I'm the family. I come from the family that this is not supposed to happen to. You know what I mean? And at least that's what a lot of people think. That I grew up here in Boca Raton. Everything was fine. Big family. There's 5 siblings, parents together. Fought how any normal family fought. Just the usual stuff. But eventually, I started noticing little things. Some family members using substances. My older brother being arrested a couple times and having issues and going to treatment a few times. But it was never really talked about in my house what was going on. So I didn't really understand why or what was happening in the house, what substance abuse was, what addiction was. I didn't really get any of that. All I know is that inside I felt like I had no idea who I was growing up. And I know that I loved getting attention from other people. And I loved acting out. I used to watch the show Jackass and be like, I want to be those guys. So
how appropriate, right? The Brandon Novak is...
Yeah. Weird. Came full circle.
Right.
So, I used to watch that show and emulate it and like throw myself down a flight of stairs just to make people laugh. Or I remember once throwing tuna fish on a wall outside at lunch and then eating it off that wall on the following Monday and getting sick, but I made everybody laugh. And so I was really attention seeking, and I learned to be a chameleon and become whoever everyone else wanted me to be. So, depending on who I was hanging out with, I became the person that they wanted me to be, and never really developed an identity. So when I found alcohol was my first thing that I tried, it felt so good. And I got blackout drunk, and I cried in my girlfriend's baby blue VW Bug on the way home. I have no idea why I cried. I fell asleep going up the stairs, fell asleep on the stairs. I have no idea how that happened. But I woke up the next day hungover and didn't feel bad about what happened the night before, didn't feel guilty that I drank so much. I remember being like, that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that. And then then I tried marijuana, and the same type of thing happened where I, had a pretty bad experience my first time doing it. I went around at a party, smoked a little bit with some friends at a party for the first time, and I saw on TV when you smoke weed, you're supposed to be loving and be that hippie style
and
guy.
The cool guy.
Yeah, so I decided that I'm going to go hug everybody at this party, and I end up hugging the wrong guy's girlfriend. And the next thing I know, and there's still actually a dent in my friend's parents' wall. The next thing I know, my head's getting shoved through a wall. So I hugged the wrong guy's girlfriend, but I had this bad experience, and I wake up the next day going, wow, that really felt good. So from there, I started learning that I can kind of escape that want and that need to impress everybody and to be liked by everybody. I can escape that through substances. And as things developed, I tried pain pills. I had a surgery on my wrist, and that ended up kind of catapulting my love for pain pills. And then that went away for a bit. I didn't know how to get them. And then in college, on my 22nd birthday, somebody gave me a roxycodone, and it was off. From that day on, I was just hooked. I fell in love. It just made me... It fulfilled every hole that I had inside of me, or at least I thought it did. And it went off, man. And I don't like to get too much into the war stories, but I got arrested. I stole. I learned how to crack safes. I couldn't look at a person's purse, a woman's purse, without being like, what's inside there? Thinking about the cash or if there's pills hidden in there. Raided my parents' medicine cabinet multiple times and stole their pills, and they had some serious issues. My mom has some serious back issues and surgeries, and
You
she
would
had
take her
stroke.
pain pills?
And I would steal half of her pain pills. So then half of the month she can't get any more, and she's in agony. But I didn't really care at the time. Just the moral part of me was turned off. So I went to treatment a couple times, and luckily it stuck the second time for me.
So how long did you spend in treatment?
90 days.
Okay, first time or second time?
Second time.
Okay.
First time, and I don't think this is anything against the first treatment center. Two things happened. The first treatment center, my family didn't realize they sent me. It was a Christian treatment center, and I'm Jewish. My family didn't realize. They got a recommendation. They sent me to or it had a very heavy Christian vibe to it. So there was people there trying to convert me, and I used that against it. I'm like, I got to get out of here. They're trying to convert me. What did you send me to? They want me to follow the steps, which apparently are all about Jesus, which is, of course, I exaggerated just because I wanted out of there. And I only spent 30 days there. 30 days and done. And I also somehow convinced my aftercare therapist there that I really didn't have a problem, that it really was something that just got away from me. And, I work in treatment now, and I know that there's all those patients who think they convinced their therapist, but I genuinely think I did. So I may have just been that manipulative. I don't know. But the second time was 90 days, and I fought it tooth and nail until about 24 days in, when someone basically put a mirror in front of my face and showed me everything that's wrong with me and every insecurity that I had, and finally told me that I'm a chameleon, and said that I was full of it, that I was just trying to impress everybody. I'm a people pleaser, and for some reason it broke me and got me serious about this, that I needed to really work on myself, and just kept going with it. So between my parents not wanting anything to do with me and me realizing how much I affected them, that was step one to helping me take it seriously. But I didn't realize how much work I had to do on myself. I thought that just meant to go to meetings and participate. And then this guy who kind of put a mirror in front of my face, and it was a group of guys actually, that's where I said, okay, I got some serious work to do if I want to make this work.
Okay, so what did you after you got out of treatment? So you did 90 days. Because I've noticed, a lot of people who work in our industry, they're in recovery, but what's really impressive about the people that we know is that they also, even if they've been in recovery 5, 10, 15 years, they seem to continually work at the sobriety. They go on to meetings, they have a sponsor, they need to go talk to somebody, they go talk to somebody. It's like they're constantly working on it, and it's just so...
You're right.
Sometimes I feel, I don't know, I'm so impressed and, I don't know, humbled by some of the people that I get to see.
No, and that's a beautiful way to put it, and it is humbling. And I'm still humbled by people who have got 40 years and are still there. There's a guy I can think of at my home group meeting, which I'm part of a 12-step program, and there's a guy I can think of that's never missed a meeting. He's in his chair every week, and he's got 42 years sober. And it's impressive to me how involved he still is. And it shows me how important it is for us to take our weekly medicine, if you want to call it that.
Right.
But for me, I got home, and I was willing to do whatever it took. The biggest thing where people fail, and I'll say this right now, and I stand by this, the biggest place where people fail is when they don't follow through with recommendations from the treatment center, when they think they got this. And that's the biggest mistake you could possibly make. Be open and take every suggestion that's made of you. So they suggested that I do intensive outpatient for a full year, and that I hit a meeting the day I get home. And that's exactly what I did. And I hit meetings, and I continued to go to meetings, and I got a sponsor, and I did the work, and I still do the work. And I have to stay involved for as long as I can. And it's not a chore anymore. Now I want to. So I did my year in an IOP, and we learned a lot about myself, and was very proud when I finished that, and kept going with the community support stuff.
That's amazing. Maybe share with us a little bit of the whole family dynamics, because actually it's interesting. About an hour before we sat down to chat, I've got a young man. We filed the Marchman Act down in Dade County.
Okay.
And the kid is very upset with his parents. He's telling him he's never going to talk to them again. As soon as he gets out, he's jumping on a bus. He's going, well, they'll never find him again. And they feel terribly guilty about the fact, they've hired a lawyer to keep their kid at a hospital where he was Baker acted to. And they're having a tough time dealing with it. And I said, look, John, can just tell you from experience that this is not abnormal for, your son to respond this way. Mm-hmm. But I've also seen the opposite, where they spend 90 days in treatment and they make a complete 180, and it's a different human being. I said, we've got to get them there first. Yeah. So maybe talk about how your family was, because you said you didn't even realize you were hurting them.
Yeah, no, I didn't even realize I was hurting them. And I always, it's weird, I always thought that they were pretending to be upset because they wanted me to stop. and that it really didn't affect them that much, because as much as they were hurt by what I was doing all along, which I know now that they were hurt, they also bailed me out of every situation. And no matter what happened, they were always there to kind of catch me whenever I fell. So I just assumed it wasn't that big of a deal, that they were able to stop and to help me every step of the way, that it's just really no big deal for them. And I didn't realize the emotional toll it was taking on them. You know, my mom didn't speak to me almost the entire second treatment. I don't think she spoke with a therapist. I don't think she spoke to anybody. She was so upset with me. You know, more than just my parents, though, it was my siblings. That coming home, and my baby sister, who she looks up to me, and I'm this guy who's abusing drugs and, you know, cheating on his girlfriend and doing all of these things I shouldn't be doing, that are out of my character and not who she looks up to. And it was that really hurt me too, and she didn't talk to me for a while. So it was tough. I also come from a family that up until recently, I would say, denies. They want to just brush this under the rug and not talk about it. It's still the old school belief that this is taboo to talk about.
Do you think that's
addiction.
a Jewish community thing, a Jewish thing?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
having, you know, I was raised in an Orthodox family, and there were just certain things you didn't talk about in the family. And
Yes.
now I sit on the board over at Jewish Family Services, and and we have a sort of subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so you know Sharon Burns Carter, I'm on the committee with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a committee for, you know, for substance abuse. It's focused a lot on the Jewish community, not only obviously people who are non-Jewish can call, but even especially in the Orthodox community, I mean, it's just never talked about. It's like, if there's a problem, we don't
And
talk.
you know what?
It doesn't get talked about outside these four walls.
Addiction is horrible in the Orthodox Jewish community.
Terrible.
But they're embarrassed to talk about it because, God forbid, you admit that you have this issue that you can't pray your way out of. And that may be controversial to say, but it's true. They try to just keep it within the family and pray their way out of it, and just it doesn't work that way. And we need to be vocal about this, and we need to talk about this and get out there more. And, you know, I was really humbled by my dad. Wrote the last chapter in the book. He wrote about his experience. Because like I said, the book is all about the entire family's experience, and it's told through fictional stories. But there's some messages from me at the end. So my intro is a little bit about my story. And then my dad wrote a short chapter about his experience. And, you know, we don't talk about this stuff in my family. I mean, my dad and I never had a conversation of what it was like for him. And I tried. It was just, you know, like a quick, it was bad, and, you know, move on type of thing. So for him to take the time to emotionally put on paper what he did put on paper.
I'm really interested to read the book.
Yeah. Check it out, because it's powerful, and it made me cry. I even brought it to my therapist. I'm like, I got to read this to you, because she always tells me I never cry. So I'm like, I got to read this to you. And I was able to cry there again. But it was powerful, and to hear his side of it and how much he was hopeless. I mean, he genuinely thought that I was gone forever. And so the fact that I'm able to be in recovery now and actually make something of myself off of my addiction problem, basically, or in spite of my addiction issues, he's so proud of me. And that was like, you have no idea, man, how touching that was for me to read and to hear. And for him to say, yeah, and we don't say I love you in my family. And for him to say I love my son in there, it was like,
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Powerful stuff. So when did you start working in the industry?
I had 13 months sober. So I was working from about 7 months.
So you didn't get any pressure to go to law school?
No. God, I could never do it. If anything, it'd probably be one of my younger brothers, but they're not doing it either now. So they're all in their careers. So none of us really followed that path. But I couldn't escape it. I had to marry one. But I had a bachelor's in psych that I got actually while I was using. I have no idea how. I was on the Van Wilder plan of like 7.5 years in school, and it was fun. But I ended up graduating eventually while I was in treatment, my first treatment center. So I missed my graduation ceremony. But I had this degree nonetheless. And started working at a place called Chrysalis Health, where I was doing it was a high psych mental health, low SES families. So I was working with these severely mentally ill population. Schizophrenics running out of the room because there's a ghost in there, stuff like that. That was really severe. So I started in the field there. They ended up closing down because of lack of funding, and then moved on to the drug and alcohol, the private sector of drug and alcohol treatment. And I'm very lucky that actually the person who wrote the foreword for the book is one of my mentors, Dr. Jeffrey Huttman, he's in a private practice right now in Boca, actually. He was the CEO of the treatment center I was working for before. Great clinician and even better mentor. And the first thing he said to me was, if you want to work in this field and be taken seriously, I need you to go get your CAP, which is Certified Addictions Professional. He's like, I need you to go enroll in school. He's like, if you want to move up in this company, you're going to do that. And I went and enrolled that night. I'm like, I'm not wasting any time. Let's do this.
So how long does it take to become a certified addictions professional?
There's a few different criteria. So it was 14 months of schooling. There was 6,000 hours you had to work in the field and to gain different experience in different areas of the field, and then 300 supervision hours. And then from there, you had to take a state board exam.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's I almost look at it like a master's in a way in addiction, and I poke fun at it actually a little bit in the intro. I talk about because I failed the state board exam by 1 point.
You did say that, and then you went and argued your point like every lawyer should do.
Exactly.
Because the question was ambiguous, and they said, "Hey,
I was right." There was two. I swear to you, there was two answers for that one question. So I was right, and that was an even better victory than if I just passed the first time. I was so happy arguing my way to a pass.
I love it. It's great. Yeah. I read that and I said, it's family of lawyers. Of course he went and argued his point. Of course I did. He didn't take that.
It's also, I have this strange delusional sense of entitlement sometimes that I have to always kind of work on. And I think that pushes me in a lot of ways to succeed. I would say more it's a delusional sense that I'm hopefully meant for something bigger than myself. But sometimes it pops up in entitlement of me arguing to the board, and hey, I got my way.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So let's look. So right now you're at Recovery Unplugged, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a very cool program.
Awesome.
It really is. So how long have you been there?
I've been there. It's 8 months now.
Okay.
Yep. So I started there in October of 2018. So yeah, that's been. That's been like a huge journey, and I've never worked for a place that's been more like, hey, you do you. They just want me to do what I'm good at. They let me design this entire corporate wellness program where now I get to speak nationally all over the country, which obviously that's the definition of nationally. Hello. They let me go around all over the country and go into different companies and educate the employees on addiction and mental illness. And I get to go in there and talk about fostering a healthy work environment where people can talk about their issues and people feel comfortable getting the help that they need. And that whole idea, like we talked about with it, addiction being taboo in the Jewish culture, it's taboo everywhere, honestly. And people are afraid to talk about it and afraid to admit they have an issue, and they usually don't get the help that they need until it's too late. So I'm hoping that we can start breaking some stigma down. We can normalize it a little bit and talk about it more. And Recovery Unplugged has been 100% behind me in these efforts. So you're talking to major corporations, right? Yeah.
Do you think the whole addiction issue is rampant? And
yes.
Really?
And
okay.
Every time I speak to an HR rep or a wellness director at any of these companies, they all say the same thing. Like, I don't know if people are going to show up for this. And then it ends up being one of their most well-attended lunch and learns or fireside chats that they've ever put on, because it's really bad. Whether it's affecting the corporate, the employees themselves, or their families, somehow everybody seems to be getting affected. I did one for a large tech startup in New York City, and maybe 140 people attended.
That's crazy.
And I'm still getting letters or emails from the HR director there saying, I'm still getting compliments. It's just because even today someone just complimented it again, saying how much it changed their way of looking at wellness and mental health and addiction. So it's been really cool. It's very important, but 75% of people who are struggling with a substance use disorder are employed. So it's majority of the population are working somewhere, and it's just they're the ones being affected the most by this. It's like an $81 billion cost to different corporations in America. So there's a lot of issues that we're having, and it's not being talked about, and it's not being addressed properly.
It's crazy stuff. So what's cool about Recovery Unplugged is they're a music-based program, right?
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about what it sort of looks like to go to Recovery Unplugged, and because I know that So I met Andrew Sossin, who's just a very, very cool individual, just a great guy, and I met him through a mutual friend, and he says, I've got, and this was way back when when I was just starting to get rolling, and he said, I'm going to meet my friend Andrew, who has this cool treatment center down in Fort Lauderdale, and they do this like Friday thing where they jam with Richie Super.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's Richie Super? But because I'm not really that inclined, but I went down there and Richie did the jam session, and I'll tell you something, that was mind blowing.
It's powerful, right?
Oh my God, was it good?
That's what sold me on the program, because look, when you're outside of Recovery Unplugged and you don't know what's going on, and you've never experienced it firsthand. I was in the field 5 years before I started at Recovery Unplugged, and I made fun of them, to be honest. I
think a lot of people did.
I didn't get it. I thought they sat around playing guitar and banging on tambourines and singing Kumbaya, and then you got to get sober through strumming a guitar. It just doesn't work that way, and that's what I thought. But I ended up going there on a Friday and spent the entire day there, from morning and all the way through Richie Supa's Feel Good Friday, and getting that little cry bubble in my throat when I'm there watching all of the patients put their arms around each other and dance, and just the sense of community that was there and the power in the room. I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand how they use music. They use it in conjunction with a clinical program. Which
is interesting, because I've been to other treatment centers since then, and there are other people who are starting to realize, hey, this music thing, there might be something to it.
Yeah. There's
pretty
a reason our numbers are so good. We have data, outcome data to back up what we're doing, and our success rates are 4 times higher than the national average. Our AMA rates are 5 times lower than the national average. That's some pretty impressive numbers, right?
Very.
There. So there's definitely a method to our madness, and nothing unites a room more than a live performance. And what it's all about, connection. Addiction is the opposite of addiction is connection, and music connects people better than anything else out there.
So what levels of care do you have there at Recovery Unplugged?
It's all levels. So from detox all the way through outpatient. We even have our sister company, Karma Health, that can do telehealth, do telemedicine, psychiatry. It's basically a doctor's office full of doctors who understand addiction. So there's one of those here in Pompano, and there's one of those in Austin, Texas. So we have locations. Recovery Unplugged has locations in Virginia, Austin, Texas, and Florida, South Florida right now.
And is Tennessee online yet? Because I know there was talk about
Tennessee is opening in a few months, and so is Dallas. And then there's talks of a few more kind of around the country starting up too.
Well, that's kind of cool, because it means you can maybe grow with the company.
That's the goal. I think I got in, even though it's been around for about 6 years or so. I think I got in still at the early stages, and I'm able to. I'm hopefully able to really grow with them.
Yeah, they have a great program, and you get to work with our good friend Sahar, who is.
Yeah, she's the best. She's my boss.
She
Love
is.
You, Sahar.
She's just fabulous. And by the way, I have been egging her to go to law school.
She tells me that you always say that to her.
I do. I want her to go.
She might as well. She's in court enough anyway.
I want her to go to law school, because I know that's what she wants to do, and I want her to have that.
Yeah. No, she deserves it.
Should be good.
And by the way, one thing I love, so I've used the music in my corporate wellness presentations now. Are you familiar? Did you see Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah.
The movie?
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that great? Unbelievable, right?
I loved it. Yeah. I've always been a huge Queen fan, so it's, Freddie Mercury to me is the greatest of all time. But you know how they wrote the song "We Will Rock You," and the whole goal was to unite the entire crowd, so the whole place is all doing something together. So in the beginning of my corporate wellness events, whenever I go to these companies, as much as they're embarrassed to do it, I make everybody stand up, and we all do the Queen. I blast it on a speaker, and I bring my own speaker with me, and I blast it, and I make everybody do the boom, 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 and get the whole room doing it.
That's great.
It's good. It unites the room.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about this.
Sure.
So what was the motivating factor for doing this? Because it's pretty personal stuff. And by the way, where if people want to get this, because I know it just came out.
Yeah.
Is it Amazon?
Amazon.
And they can so they can get the hard copy, the paperback, right? But they can also
or the Kindle.
Right, you can get it on Kindle too.
Yep. So, and I think right now it's 99 cents on the Kindle store. So it's cheap right now. We're going to keep it that way for the next couple months. So while it's cheap, go get it. It's cheap for the paperback too. I think it's $12.50 right now. So I'm keeping prices low while we're launching the book. A few things motivated that. And a few of it was personal things that were going on in my life where I was in a state of uncomfortability. And I've learned that when I'm uncomfortable with change or uncomfortable with my scenario, I need to do something about it. And the best way to do that is to be creative. And so I decided to start writing, and it led to that. So I turned my fear into something creative.
How long does it take you to write it?
6 months.
Okay. So how do you I always wondered, how do you get a book published? I mean, I know these days you can self-publish, right?
So it is self-published. I did work with a couple companies that helped me with the editing and the publishing process on Amazon. So I gave them credit on there. Technically, though, it is self-published. It was fairly easy. What was difficult was the editing process of going back and forth, and I'm insane. I've realized I'm so meticulous that the way that every chapter starts, the way that the whole look and the feel of the book, even to the feel of the paperback, how it's a matte cover. I mean, even that I was meticulous about. I wanted it matte. There was a specific look I wanted for everything. The size of it, I chose. I mean, every little bit about it, I've been meticulous with it, to the point where I found a typo in there. That luckily, when you self-publish, you can go fix it quickly. So I did, thank God. But I mean, I was going nuts about it all weekend until I can get it fixed. So
I'm the same way. I send a pleading into the court and I know there's a mistake. It makes me bananas.
Oh, you should talk to my wife. She's the same way. Whenever she sends something into the
Type
court
A.
and there's a typo, it's just the world's ending. So it was the same thing for me. So, like I said, it was that personal thing. It's always been on my vision board is be a best-selling author. And I kept kind of having this thought of being a best-selling author, but I'm like, wait, actually I have to write a book to be a best-selling author. So let me just start writing. But the other part of it was the larger piece was that just working in the field, I don't think that anybody really understands what it's like in each other's shoes. And I don't think, we have patients who come through our program who don't get why their family is so upset. And they don't get what it's like for them and the agony that they're going through. And at the same time, I have mothers and wives and husbands who don't get why a person can go through a treatment program or go to jail or whatever it may be and still pick up drugs again, and what's going on in their mind. So I wanted to write a book and use stories to kind of to show people what's going on in everybody's minds and offer some perspective to both sides of it. And not just one type of story. There's a story of recovery in there. There's a story of, I call it loss, where someone who goes to jail and just keeps using despite the consequences, and what that's like in the person's mind, hating themselves, the guilt and the shame, yet at the same time they keep going. And then there's a story of grief in there, and that was really powerful, that story, for me to write, and it was emotional. And I did interviews. I interviewed a ton of mothers to get what it was like for them when they lost their kid to an overdose, and the dance that they go through of this teetering on insanity, this fine line of insanity, of dancing back and forth of, am I losing my mind, or am I sane right now, or should I be going through this? Is my kid in the room next to me still? This dance that they go through, it's powerful.
It's amazing. I kind of want your insight on this. One of the things I've sort of noticed, and I'm giving you my sort of non-clinical perspective on this stuff, is I've noticed that, and they call it a family disease, and I didn't understand why until I started working with lots of families, but it seems like when it comes to a substance use disorder, it seems like the family is in crisis, but the person who's like sort of in the middle of all this, for them, I mean, for the most part, it's like, this is status quo, this is my life, this is normal for me.
Yeah.
It's everybody else around them that's really bouncing off the walls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about, though. I mean, the drugs have hijacked your brain, so you're not thinking rationally, and part of that is the reason why attorneys like you exist. I mean, because the person's not thinking rationally enough to just say, hey, I think I need help, I'm going to go to treatment now.
It rarely happens.
We typically need to be stopped, and it has become our daily life. We're used to waking up every single morning and being, okay, how am I going to get money for the drugs today? How am I going to get the drugs? Who do I have to screw over? And that's daily life. So it is status quo, but you don't realize how much it's hurting ourselves and how deadly it is. And we're living in a life of insanity. Our brains have been hijacked. So of course, from the outside, it looks awful. We're losing weight, we're gray, we're not, all of these things that are happening, we're dying. but we don't even notice it because our brain is telling us the most important thing that we can do right now is go get high and keep using drugs.
I'm glad that you said that because I think people need to understand that because, sometimes I get families, they don't know what to do. And then I get other families who say, and they call me and they say, I think we're done. We've had, little Johnny or little Jane in treatment for, 3 or 4 times. There's been relapses and, we just feel like our child is that one that isn't going to ever get better.
Mm-hmm. And which is understandable too, right? I mean, there's so many people who have this black and white viewpoint of how to treat a family member if they're going through this problem, where that you have to just keep loving them, never give up, or it's the opposite. You cut them off right away, and it's this very rigid viewpoint. And there is no right or wrong way to deal with it. It's a case by case basis. Sometimes you do need to keep loving them. Sometimes you need to show them that they're worthy and you're not going to give up on them. And sometimes you do have to kick their ass out. And I know my family, if my dad never said those words to me that we never want to see you again, I never would have gotten sober. So if I wasn't forced into treatment, I never would have gotten sober. I was not thinking right.
It's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. I'm looking forward to reading your dad's words here, by the way.
Yeah, it's powerful. And he even ends it with an all capitals paragraph of just a bunch of just advice to the family members going through
I'm sure I'm going to relate to this because I keep my dad's photo off in here because I lost him a couple of years ago. So I know how close I was with my dad.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I learned from him until he was gone. So I might have to read that, then go back and read the other stories. So
yeah. We learn, you learn your family's love language, and we always want, and this is something in recovery that I've been grateful enough to be able to sit back and kind of cherish these moments of it. I realize that my parents don't love me in the way that I wanted them to love me. They don't say I love you to me. They don't hug me. They don't kiss me. That's not my family style. But my dad says I love you to me by doing things like that for me, by writing.
Right. Are you touchy-feely with your wife?
Yeah,
I bet you are. I was gonna say
I'm the total opposite, man. We're the PDA couple. We're everywhere, kissing and hugging on each other. I mean, she's so beautiful and she's so sweet that she's one of those people you just want to kind of like grab on anyway and just love on her. She's so sweet. But it's me. My dad's speech at my wedding. Every one of us, all the siblings, cried. I cried like, oh my God. I cried the second I walked out to go down the aisle. I started crying. It was bad. And I couldn't stop crying the whole ceremony. And part of that was because I walk out and I see my family back in my life. And it was really like a gratitude moment for me. I see my family back in my life.
It's one hell of a journey, Blake.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like from being left basically abandoned in Minnesota, that's where they sent me for treatment, to walking out down the aisle to a girl that I had cheated on and I was terrible to when I was still out of my addiction. And she forgave me. We ended up fighting through and sticking it out, and then 8 years later getting married. And to my family back in my life, to looking around the room, and there's 2 different sets of bosses there, of people, of places that employ me, who look up to me and value me. And then all the other family and friends that are still in my life. And everyone's looking at me smiling, and I lost it. It was a beautiful thing, man. And all of my siblings were crying the whole time. And so my dad's speech, he goes, I raised these 5 beautiful, emotional kids. And I'll tell you what, those emotions don't come from me. I don't know where they come from, but I'm so happy that they have that ability to emote, because that's not how I was raised. And it's just, it was really powerful.
That is powerful.
We all went the other way.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So look, for folks who are watching the show, how do they get a hold of you? Find out about Recovery Unplugged and you and...
So I don't mind giving out my cell. My cell is 561-451-6361. You can also go to BlakeEvanCohen.com. That's my website for the book. It's also available on Amazon. Just type in I Love You More book, or just type in I Love You More. It'll come up. Just scroll down a little bit or type in my name. Also recoveryunplugged.com and check out the website, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always happy to talk, even if you can't come to Recovery Unplugged.
So for families who watch this, if they want to come check out Recovery Unplugged, can they do like the Friday jam session to come and check that out?
Oh yeah.
That to me would be like,
again, call my cell or go to my website and fill out a contact request, or anything, any way to get a hold of me. I'm happy to host you that day and bring whoever wants to come out. It's just such a cool experience.
It's a very cool experience.
And it's powerful, and you get it when you're there.
I love it.
It's like trying to describe chocolate to someone who's never tried chocolate before. Like when you try
Not
to describe
cheese
recovery
though.
in public.
Not cheese. And,
Not cheese.
And so when they read the beginning of the book, they'll understand
They'll
the whole
see, yeah,
the
the
whole
cheese
cheese thing.
So yeah, you'll see.
That was powerful too.
It's
by
a
the
good
way.
metaphor.
Because you're reading it, you're like, I know that Mouse is getting it. He's going to get what's coming to him, but he's going to nibble on that cheese anyway.
So here's a little teaser for everybody who's listening. So the last chapter is written by my dad. There's some messages. There's some powerful stories in there. At the same time, the first thing that you read in that book is all about a mouse and a mousetrap. So there's a lot going on in that book. So check it out.
It's very cool. And folks, don't forget to post comments or questions. Follow us online, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think we're on Instagram and some of the other places that Jay's going to put me. And if you have any questions, you can find us online at drugandalcoholattorneys.com. You can email me, mark@drugandalcoholattorneys.com. And you can call us, 561-419-6095. Until next week, Blake, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And
You're awesome.
you got to get this book. I'm telling you, it's a great read.
I love you more.
It's a great book.
And I love you.
I love you, man. I'll tell you, we're going to be touchy-feely.
I love you more, yeah.
So thanks for coming on, Blake.
All right,
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks.
having me.